Posen.
And you have to be in this for the long term. I mean, creativity is a lifelong pursuit. I really, that's really important. This is not, a pow, you're out, and that's it. You can't be a one-hit wonder in fashion. Very early on, I realized that I wanted to dress on the red carpet, not just what's young and hot at the moment, but who I thought were great artists or public figures. And that doesn't define itself by a size, a race, an age.
Are you tough?
I am tough.
Tougher than Heidi or Nina?
Yes.
Plus, tell me what you're doing for Delta.
For Delta, I'm redoing all their uniforms, a full redo. Very top secret.
Delta's blue and red, isn't it?
For now.
Oh my God, you're changing the color.
For now.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest, Zac Posen, Council of Fashion Designers of America, award-winning designer, Brooks Brothers creative director, and judge on the long-running Project Runway. Now in its 15th season, the Emmy-nominated series airs Thursdays at 9 p.m. 8 Central on Lifetime. Zac was born and raised in New York City. When did you get hip to wanting to design clothes for women?
When did I get hip on that?
Yeah, why?
Why? My dad is a painter. He was an artist. He painted with cloth. Soho, New York, where I grew up, was a garment district. And it still was in the early 80s.
Was it called Soho?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It had changed, And when I'd walk the dog at night, there would be remnants of fabric. And those were my play tools. I'd bring them home and I'd build them on my figurines. I mean, my first love is film and theater. And then that brought me into fashion.
Did you design for theater?
I haven't done a production yet, but TBD, of course.
Yeah. Is it true you use yarmulkes from your grandparents' synagogue to make dresses for your dolls?
It is true. I mean, that's like a fact, this kind of facts that, become more fact.
Did friends on the block make a little fun of Zac? Zac is doing his yarmulkes for his dolls?
I would hide my dolls as a kid.
Good thinking, Zac.
I'd hide my dolls as a little kid.
Were your parents supportive?
Very. Very supportive. Growing up, I had, this early idea of something called ADD and dyslexia. And my mom, who had had a change of careers, in her life and had become a corporate lawyer and then a partner on Wall Street to balance my dad being a painter, she wanted to make sure, that I got the best education possible. That's what they value.
In the world of fashion,
yeah,
the breaks usually come in a young designer works for a famous designer and then goes out on his or her own. Is that your story?
The traditional journey is usually that you apprentice for somebody, and then you get discovered within that, and I just expedited the whole thing.
What was your first fashion job?
I worked for Nicole Miller, a designer, at 16 years old on 7th
Really?
Avenue, and I would sketch, and I'd lay the sketches on her desk every day, and then I started working within the industry. Went to Parsons for a summer course, and then I moved to the UK. I got accepted to what I think is one of the finest design schools in the world.
In England?
In England, in London, called Central St. Martin's, where a lot of incredible designers that were my heroes at the time went, such as John Galliano and Alexander McQueen and Stella McCartney. And I got accepted, skipped a year of college. So I was there. I thought...
So you had success early.
I thought, look British, speak Yiddish.
You had success early.
Yeah. I mean, and while I was there, Naomi Campbell saw a dress of mine on a girlfriend. And she tracked it down and found me.
One person like that can spiral you.
Just started. It all started to culminate and come together. And I was with a suitcase trying to sell my wares at little stores in London.
Why is Project Runway so successful?
Because it's about the creative process. And the creative process, is something very human. It's as important as making love. It's as important as eating.
Are you tough?
I am tough. I think
tougher than Heidi or Nina?
Yes. Because, I know I really make clothing with my hands. I understand construction. When I look at clothes, Nina, she looks at it from a trend fashion perspective. Well, trends come and go. And she gives the best criticism for that. Heidi comes at it, would I wear this? Do I like it? I'm coming from it, is there actually creative integrity within that? And I can see from how a piece of clothing is made, the thought process, whether it's a messy garment, a beautifully finished garment, I don't care.
It is, Zac, a subjective business, right? I either like what you got or I don't like what you got.
You got it. I shop, I don't shop.
What makes a good designer?
What makes a good designer? You have to love women. I mean, that's important, and I can see that in clothing. I think you have to love women. You have to be inventive. You have to be resilient. And you have to be in this for the long term. I mean, creativity is a lifelong pursuit. I really, that's really important. This is not, a pow, you're out, and that's it. You can't be a one-hit wonder in fashion. Then you're out.
Yeah.
You got to continue. I do 16, 17 collections a year.
Is the Parsons School equal to its reputation?
I think Parsons puts out some very talented people. When I'm hiring for my studio, I don't care where they go to school. I don't care if they're self-taught.
Really?
If they got it, they got it.
Tell me what you're doing for Delta.
For Delta, I'm redoing all their uniforms. I mean, a full redo. It's very top secret.
Men and women?
Men and women, above and below wing. It's a great...
Above and below wing? What does that mean?
It means the people in the plane and then the work crew below the plane.
Below the plane. And also the people at the counters?
Everything. The full experience.
So it's a contract deal with Delta?
It is.
Do they have to sign off on it?
Of course. Right? There are many steps in
the
process.
Where in the process are you?
We are about to start doing our testing. We've presented it.
What do you mean testing?
So they'll have some key members within their organization actually doing the wear test, where they wear it in their activities they do.
Delta's blue and red, isn't it?
For now.
Oh my God, you're changing the color.
For now.
Our guest is iconic fashion designer Zac Posen. Up next, Zac on American beauty ideals and the rise of street style stars. Stay with us. Our guest is the iconic fashion designer Zac Posen. You see him on Project Runway. Very successful, new Delta. When you fly Delta, when will we see them on the plane?
We'll see. I don't want to give an exact date because I'm sure we'll have in the next year. Yeah, 2018.
Is there a Zac Posen look? Can people walk into a store and say, that's a Zac Posen?
They do.
And what would be a Zac Posen?
It's anatomical and architectural. Glamorous, has an air of romanticism to it, but this is about an empowered femininity.
Even in its evening or casual wear?
It's about construction. I don't need embellishments to tell my designs. I don't need bells and whistles. It's about the integrity of the cut of the clothing. That's the purest side of my work.
How important is the model?
Hugely. A model can make or break a piece of clothing on the runway. I mean, casting, that's like casting a role in a film.
I see.
You
talked about wanting to represent women of different races and body types with your line. By different body types, you mean like overweight women, or?
Yeah, more voluptuous women. I don't usually use the word overweight. I don't know what the standard weight is.
The Vogue model is out to you?
No, I don't think there is today. I think we're living in a time when people are, representing themselves as their own fashion plate. And I have to, I think it's really important. And I don't think that's, in fashion on the runway, I'm not that interested in presenting. I present diversity on the runway, but very early on I realized that for the red carpet, and I've been very fortunate to dress many incredible women, that I wanted to dress on the red carpet, not just what's young and hot at the moment, but who I thought were great artists or public figures. And that doesn't define itself by a size, a race, an age. And diversity makes the world beautiful. That's what makes this exciting to be here. And we're all mixed anyhow.
Natalie Portman helped make you famous,
She
right?
did.
How did that
How'd that happen? It was really, well, in my building in Soho, there were two Z's that lived on Spring Street, Zeke and Zac. And I had an incredible childhood best friend who grew up above me, and he went to Harvard. And one day, he said, I have this girl, I just started. I started in my parents' living room. I came back from London, and it was just, one table, and I'd done my first collection. He said, I want you to meet, this, would you ever be interested in dressing Natalie Portman? And we met, and this is right after 9/11 in downtown New York, and she wore a dress of mine that was my opening look of the show. It's called the Empire State Dress. And she wore that to her, we fitted on her, we liked each other right away. She's a very smart young lady, very composed. And from there, then we started going to some events together, and a real friendship formed. And my first publicist, who was her publicist at that time, said she'd never seen anything like that. She said it was like an electric, real moment.
You still work for her?
Well, she has fashion contracts now. That's the thing that's come into play into here.
Meaning?
Well, the actresses can't always wear everything they want because part of the business is a contract.
Like the basketball players with sneakers.
Exactly. It's all become this now.
What do you make of fashion bloggers and street style? What is that, street style?
Street style. Well, people taking photos of people on the street in their outfits outside of fashion shows. Listen, some are good, some are not. They're expressing themselves. I mean,
This internet has changed the world, right? And
you know, people want to, everybody wants to be famous. People used to want to be, you know, used to be people wanted to be rich, right? Now they just want to be famous. They want to be heard. They want to be seen.
Famous for being famous.
Famous for being famous. So I'm trying to teach people, you know, because I feel like, you know, I kind of started at a time when there were no real young designers. So I took the hits along the way. But I've worked, you know, my tush off. And I try to teach people from a public image through social media.
How long have you been with Brooks Brothers?
I've been with Brooks Brothers for about 3 years now.
They've changed, haven't they?
Yes.
For
Lots
the
of
better.
progress. Oh, much. It's
Women and men.
Yeah, I only do the women, but I hope to inspire the men in the office, in our building.
So if I'm in a Brooks Brothers store and I buy Brooks Brothers clothes, and I see...
I'll come fit you.
If I see a dress, is that your design?
Yes. In the regular collection. We have a few price tiers, but I do the top main line, just Brooks Brothers. And I kept my name off of it. They
Why?
wanted to put my name on the label because I thought, you know, as the oldest American clothier, there was something more modern about keeping the integrity of just the name. I thought it kind of dated it, made it of a moment, and Brooks Brothers is about non-trend. You know, it's always in style. It's the classics.
Okay, and that's true in a sense. What makes, who decides, this always fascinated me, I've been interviewing for 60 years, who decides, okay, miniskirts are back?
Who decides that?
Is it Saul Feldman in the Bronx or Giuseppe Guidoni in Venice? Who said miniskirts?
Who says it? Well,
who says it?
You know, I'm going to tell you something. It starts with the bloggers now. They have the reach. I mean, these bloggers,
but they're not
individuals.
Designers, are they?
No, but they can make it. You know, they'll find a piece, they'll wear it, and their reach and their followers are larger than the editorial publications today, bigger than the brands, individuals. And this whole idea today that, you know, individuals themselves are brands, it's pretty powerful and real.
By the way, are miniskirts in?
Yes. Skirts are in. You know, skirt, where it has the shorts underneath the skirt, like a Judy Garland romper.
Oh. We're talking about Zac's favorite fashion cities and red carpet moments after the break. Stay with us. We're back with Zac Posen, the very versatile, incredibly talented, made it young designer who works with Brooks Brothers and many stars, and he's designing the new Delta line. We're all looking forward to seeing that. How important for the designer is the knowledge of fabric?
Huge. Enormous.
So I can't just sit and draw something.
No, not great fashion. I mean, really great fashion. You have to take the fabric, feel it, see how it moves on the mannequin. I drape. I'm 3D. I can sketch, but I much prefer to build 3D sculpt. And you know, fabric is everything. I mean, I got a great training on fabric. I'm totally tactile.
How about the environment issues?
Huge.
Like sustainable fabrics?
Very important. It's something that I continuously look into. I would say it's not as accessible as I'd like it to be. You know, I have a secondary line at some point in my near future. I'd like to make that completely sustainable, but it's quite challenging to do. And not only the fabric, sustainable manufacturing. I mean, we're on one planet.
Are you drawing all the time?
I'm drawing, I'm dreaming, I'm sketching. I just got an editing app. An app that edits, and it in syncs with the music. And I just turned to my assistant, I said, maybe I should just download like Final Cut. You know, because I'm liking making all these little short films on my Instagram.
We play a little game called If You Only Knew.
Yeah,
what's the city with the best style?
The city, Tokyo.
Tokyo?
Absolutely.
Favorite fashion risk taker?
Favorite fashion risk taker? That's a harder one. There are very few, you know, originals today.
Designer you wanted to emulate when you started?
The designer I want, John Galliano.
Trend you wish would go away?
You know, dirty, disheveled fashion. Schlumpy.
Holes in jeans.
Disgusting. You know, really boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You design jeans?
I have, yeah, I do. With Brooks, I've had jeans. And I've had years ago, I had Z jeans.
Oh, yeah? Gloria Vanderbilt was very
You bet.
important in that. If there was someone you'd like to dress but haven't yet, who's there?
Great question. You know, hopefully our next First Lady.
Favorite red carpet moment of yours?
Wow. I think this year at the Metropolitan Museum Costume Institute with Claire Danes, I made a dress woven out of fiber optics, and it illuminated.
Whoa.
And it hit that place of technology and fantasy and Cinderella.
How do you determine price?
You determine price, there's an equation. So, you know,
Time you put in?
The time. You make a garment, then you price the time something gets sewn. I mean, this is where, like, the garmento in me comes out. You price how long it takes to sew, how much yield, which is how much fabric goes into it, how many you're making, the quantity, the scale of quantity, that gets amortized. And from there you price it, and then you put there's anywhere between a 2.2 and a 2.8 markup, and some brands even 3. It's perceived value fashion. Once you've bought something, unless, it's really how you feel about it, because it drops in value.
Designer you'd like to trade places with for a day?
Designer I'd like to trade, that's great.
Maybe
Japanese, yeah, of course.
Ooh.
Yohji Yamamoto in Japan.
Yeah, I know you.
Yeah, Yoji's great.
Something you wouldn't be caught dead wearing?
You'll never see me in short shorts. No way. Not in public.
If not New York, where would you live?
I'd live on a farm.
Really? Whoa.
When I'm not fashioning, my parents live part-time in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and I fashion detox there. I mean, I garden, I'm very rural.
What do people get wrong about you?
A lot. People get a lot wrong about me, I think, starting out so young and ambitious. I think people see ambition as arrogance.
Which city puts on the best fashion week?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I've gotten myself in trouble on this answer before.
Do a lot of big cities put on fashion week?
Every city in the world. As we talked about
Columbus, Ohio has a fashion week?
Probably. I believe it.
Okay.
But I would say, listen, Paris is the heart of the craft of fashion. Paris and New York.
Any overrated?
Many. Many overrated designers. But they, listen, things that are so in trend, but that are such a marker of the moment in fashion, they don't get remembered.
You can't copyright a design, can you?
You can't. I've been on the steps of Washington. I've tried. I had the dress,
You can make a dress.
This is at this store, and this is at the same time, and with the lobbyists and everything, and they were just, that's okay. Flattery.
Biggest risk you've taken?
About 8 years ago, right before I turned 30, I felt not valued, stupidly, by New York. And I just took a very gung-ho move without the finances to do this properly and moved where I showed my collection to Paris for 2 seasons. The American press went on kill mode. And, it put my health at jeopardy. It put my business at jeopardy. They felt like it was to New York and to them. There's also politics. I changed PR companies at that time.
Sounds a little pompous.
It felt pompous, but it was the right thing because it gave me reflection on what kind of clothing and what work I meant and my brand to the customer in America. And I needed that separation.
If you weren't a designer, what do you think it'd be?
If I weren't a designer, I'd be a filmmaker. It's not expected, I guess, today from fashion designers, but,
Scorsese. Something you long believed to be true but realized wasn't.
Something I believe is true. That's a great question. That opportunity is not a lengthy visitor.
Tell me something people don't know about you.
What don't people know? I mean, well, if you don't follow social media, I'm an avid cook. When I'm not in my studio, I go home and I cook. I'm writing my cookbook. I'm halfway through.
You're writing a cookbook?
I am.
Are you expert in one area?
I go from rustic to refined in the food. I bake. I can do pastry. I do very healthy. I feel like a healthy balance. I have a happy husband at home.
Zach is answering your. Is he in the business?
He is. He works with me.
Zach is answering your social media questions in our final segment. Plus, Zach's tips for looking like $1 million on a budget. We'll be right back. Before we get to some social media questions with Zac Posen, Project Runway in its 15th year. What a career. Do you have any tips for how women on a budget can look their best?
Yeah, absolutely. Less is more. Always. So, a great shoe, a flat if you can't walk in a heel, a great black dress. I say get one great dress and tailor it. I can't begin to tell you the difference a piece of clothing can make and make you feel if something is well tailored. That's it. Simple.
Women's shoes, this drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Some shoes are $1,500.
Oh, yeah.
Some are $300. But do people look at shoes?
Oh, yes.
They do?
People judge on shoes. Women judge on shoes and bags.
Can you tell a great shoe?
Yes.
By looking at it?
Absolutely. I can tell quality. I can smell, I can taste it. When I'm in fabric meetings, I'm chewing the fabric to feel the fiber. How do I tell? It's called the last of the shoe, the shape of it. And that's how you tell a well-made shoe. Also the wobble test. I go into like a Neiman Marcus you know, like a crazy person, and start seeing wobble the shoe, and I see how fast the pendulum of the bottom of the shoe is to rebalance, and that's how you tell a good shoe. If it goes balances, it's a good shoe. If it starts wobbling, and then you got a bad shoe.
So a couple of social media questions.
Okay.
Nedum Liam, your dresses are timeless. What inspires you?
That's a great compliment.
What
What inspires me? Great music, nature. I mean, you know, I'm in my garden. I look at how, you know, abstract, wild, creative Mother Nature is. It's pretty trippy.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't, great women. I have some of the greatest muses and I don't call them muses, inspirations in the world, you know, and they're forces, and they're in all kinds of disciplines.
Your husband works for you or with
My husband, yeah, he works with me, for me. I mean, he has his own career too, but he's my creative director over all my projects.
Is
A
that
French
how you,
man
is
named
that
Christopher Niquet.
Is that how you met?
We did.
Sebastian Smith via our blog. Do you ever wake up and feel like you have nothing to wear? The famous statement of all women.
Do I have nothing to wear? No, I don't. You know, I make a wardrobe for Project Runway. I make a wardrobe. I am blessed in suits.
How are you with men's clothes? You ever want to design them?
Yeah, I love to design men's clothes.
Why not do it then?
Because I have to be focused, one thing at a time. I like to do things right. I don't like to rush into things. I like to do things.
Is that a Brooks Brothers suit?
It is. Custom Brooks Brothers suit, made in America, in Southwick, Massachusetts.
What kind of fabric?
It's a, you know, it's all wool, not a cashmere. You know, I like that it has this kind of black and white PK texture to it. Probably reads as gray on a screen.
You ever want to do a Ralph Lauren and design pillows?
Absolutely. I want to design it all.
Ralph's done pretty good.
He's done incredible.
And so have you.
Oh, thank you. Real pleasure.
Thanks to my guest, Zac Posen. Project Runway airs Thursdays at 9 p.m., 8 Central, and Zac's clothing is available at zacposen.com. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. See you next time. On Larry King Now, fashion designer and Project Runway judge, Zac Posen.
And you have to be in this for the long term. I mean, creativity is a lifelong pursuit. I really, you know, that's really important.
Longevity.
This is not, you know, a pow, you're out, and that's it. You can't be a one-hit wonder in fashion. Very early on, I realized that I wanted to dress on the red carpet, not just what's young and hot at the moment, but who I thought were great artists or public figures. And that doesn't define itself by a size, a race, an age.
Are you tough?
I am tough.
Tougher than Heidi or Nina?
Yes.
Plus, tell me what you're doing for Delta.
For Delta, I'm redoing all their uniforms, a full redo. Very top secret.
Delta's blue and red, isn't it?
For now.
Oh my God, you're changing the color.
For now.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest, Zac Posen, Council of Fashion Designers of America, award-winning designer, Brooks Brothers creative director, and judge on the long-running Project Runway. Now in its 15th season, the Emmy-nominated series airs Thursdays at 9 p.m., 8 Central on Lifetime. Zac was born and raised in New York City. When did you get hip to wanting to design clothes for women?
When did I get hip on that?
Yeah, why?
Why? You know, my dad is a painter. He was an artist. He painted with cloth. Soho, New York, where I grew up, was a garment district, and it still was in the early 80s.
Was it called Soho?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It had changed, you know. And when I'd walk the dog at night, there would be remnants of fabric. And those were my play tools. I'd bring them home, and I'd build them on my figurines. I mean, my first love is film and theater. And then that brought me into fashion.
Did you design for theater?
I haven't done a production yet, but TBD, of course.
Yeah. Is it true you use yarmulkes from your grandparents' synagogue to make dresses for your dolls?
It is true. I mean, that's like a fact, you know, this kind of facts that, you know, become more fact.
Did friends on the block make a little fun of Zac? Zac is doing his yarmulkes for his dolls?
I would hide my dolls as a kid.
Good thinking, Zac.
I'd hide my dolls as a little kid.
Were your parents supportive?
Very. Very supportive. You know, growing up, I had, you know, this early idea of something called ADD and dyslexia. And my mom, who had had a change of careers, you know, in her life and had become a corporate lawyer and then a partner on Wall Street to balance my dad being a painter, you know, she wanted to make sure, you know, that I got the best education possible. That's what they value.
In the world of fashion,
yeah,
the breaks usually come in a young designer works for a famous designer and then goes out on his or her own. Is that your story?
The traditional journey is usually that you apprentice for somebody,
Right.
and then you get discovered within that, and I just expedited the whole thing.
What was your first fashion job?